Like all the stages in Smash Ultimate right now, minus like FD and Kalos, feel so similar, right? They have very similar looking like you could probably overlay all the blast zones on top of each other and you'd notice that almost all the blast zones are the same, right? And then the amount of length on the stage to blast zone ratio, really similar, right? And it's only tri-plats or dual plats legal. I think there's like one single plat stage, maybe two. Smashville's a single plat stage, right? We have so many other stages that have been viable in Smash history that are just completely ignored in Smash Ultimate. And I think it makes the game more sterile and boring than it otherwise needs to be, right? The characters that piss people off are already the best, right? Game & Watch, Sonic, Steve, right? Those characters, kind of not fun to watch at a top level, especially if you're seeing them in every single top 8 over and over. And every single set after like top 128 is best of 5. So it makes for like a really boring viewer experience that we see like, I don't know, PS2, like 2 out of the 4 games in every set. 2 out of the 4, 3 out of the 5 games in every set. Most people just jump into PS2 to start because it's the safest and best starter on paper, even when it's not the best starter for your character anyways. And it's easy to agree to, right? But because of that, for a spectator experience, it's really boring to watch. There's so many other stages that could be legal and probably should be legal that would shake up the meta, right? If you've ever watched Smash, you know there are a few stages that you see and you're like, this could never be competitively viable. But then there's others where you look at them and like, they're a little funky, but they're not too bad, right? A stage like Lylat, which is basically a tri-plat where all the plats are the same length, but the stage has slants, one on each side and the middle is straight. It's different. It's weird, but it's not inherently game-breaking. But it's weird from the norm of what is considered legal, in Smash Ultimate at least. This stage was legal for, I want to say all of Smash 4, and it only caused a few problems. Like, you would get Lylated, right, where you're trying to recover and your character would end up under Lylat because it tilted one way or another. But generally, it's a pretty safe stage. WarioWare, I think this stage is like legal, or was legal for a long time in the Smash mods. I don't think it was ever legal in I don't believe it was legal in Smash 4. I don't even know if it's in Smash 4. But it might have been legal in Brawl. It's really tall. There's platforms that go up, and you can carry people and like ladder people off the platforms, which some people don't like. You can already do it on Battlefield, right? You have to SDI out or DI out to get away from the ladder combos of characters like Bayonetta, ZSS, Game & Watch, and Mario. Even Sonic can kind of ladder you, right? But if you don't, then you die. So that already exists on Battlefield. There is one major difference. The side blast zones are really fucking tiny on WarioWare. Like, very tiny. So it would lead to faster games. You would take a character that wants to camp you to WarioWare. You are not running for me, and if you try to run for me, and I get you to the edge, I'll hit you with a forward air or back air, and you will die at 50. And it will feel bad, and you won't like it, and you'll be down a stock, and you are now forced to ban this stage, right? Like, as a zoner, you're like, fuck, I have to ban WarioWare, right? I don't want to die on WarioWare. And that opens up the player who has the faster character and wants grounded movement and doesn't want platforms to instead then go Battlefield instead of not Battlefield, Final Destination or Kalos instead of those stages getting instantly struck, right? That's 2 stages already that could be added. And these are like pretty standard stages. There's nothing really inherently wrong with them on the basis of the platform itself, not the blast zones. But the last stage I would say could be legal in competitive Smash, and probably should be, is Frigate Orphan. It has more terrain than others. It has a unique layout, and it favors characters that can play from under the opponent well, right? Because some characters they don't actually do it, right? So a character like Game & Watch, a character like Sonic, characters like Steve, these characters are going to get better on a stage like Frigate Orphan. So that means that more people will have to ban these stages. The reason why specifically I'm naming 3 stages is because you put in 3 wild-ass stages, more than likely, 2 of which are always going to get banned. They're going to get struck, so no one plays on them for that set. But then 2 more stages one of these 3 stages will be legal, and you'll have to play at least one of the 5 games, because after like top 198, top 64, top cut, basically, right? Whenever they decide that it's time for the competition to become steeper, they make it best of 5. And for those best of 5s, you almost always see mostly Pokemon Stadium. It's pretty sterile, and it doesn't make for a good viewer experience. And if I'm quite honest, I don't even think that it makes for a good competitive experience, because there's less versatility and flexibility in the stage list than there needs to be. It means that certain characters that could thrive on some of these stages, like WarioWare, Frigid Orpheon, or Lylat, just don't have the opportunity to counterpick their way onto this stage to try to sneak in one more game in that best of 5, or sneak in a win early in a first to 2, right? A first to 2 or a first to 3. Stages matter so much in fighting games. In Smash Ultimate, I think they matter more than most, but I think there are cases where stages matter in traditional fighting games, right? I don't think people think about this, but I think Tekken, Soul Calibur, and DOA, I think it's mainly the 3D fighters, right? The 3D fighters, Tekken, Soul Calibur, DOA, Virtua Fighter, Bloody Roar, even something along the lines of Naruto Clash of Ninja, Getsuku Ninja Taisen, or Super Clash of Ninja. The stages matter. Stages legitimately matter, right? Whether they're square, whether they're rectangle, whether they have stage transitions, wall breaks, floor breaks, whether they're long or short, where the ring outs exist in a game like Soul Calibur and Virtua Fighter, how easy it is to combo someone from one side of the stage to another, wall to wall, or wall to edge, wall to ring edge. Some characters excel at this, some characters don't, right? Some characters want infinite stages, some characters want a long stage with walls, or want a short stage with walls so they can pressure you at the wall because their wall game is significantly better than their neutral. In Soul Calibur, we currently random stage. For the World Tour rules, we were supposed to be able to counterpick stage. Loser could keep the same character and pick stage, or change character and random stage. I believe Tekken has a system like this now, where that's what they do, but Soul Calibur still doesn't. Virtua Fighter, if I'm not mistaken, still doesn't. I don't know if DOA has a competitive scene, so I can't refer to it. Same thing with Bloody Roar. I'm not sure if there's a big competitive scene for these games. But if there is one, I hope to God they're not randoming stage, because stage is super duper important in 3D fighters. Like, I feel like it's just as important as in platform fighters. And adding more luck and variance by making stage random, instead of having a pick and ban system and just banning off some of the stages because they're absolute, like Howard Estate shouldn't, like if there was a pick and ban system for Tekken, or Tekken 7, let's talk about Tekken 7. Howard Estate should not be legal. It should absolutely legitimately be fucking banned. Like, a stage is not okay. There's no reason you should be able to wall break someone 4 times and kill them in a touch of their combo because you wall broke them 4 times. Right? There's 3 rounds. So it's not the same as something like Smash where you just get like a free corner to corner like walk off for a free stock. But it's pretty similar. You're taking one of the rounds, you're taking one of the stocks, whatever. Right? And if you're a character like Akuma or Geese, you're also expending your resources so you can build them back later as comeback mechanics for the next rounds. Stages are super important when it comes to Tekken, and super important when it comes to Soul Calibur. These are like the only 2 3D fighters that are still like majorly alive. I'm sure Virtua Fighter has like Parsec tournaments and stuff. And I hope to God they don't use a random system for their stages, but knowing the FGC, they probably do, and I'm not a big advocate of it. I honestly hope that in the future we start to see that for 3D fighters, stages matter way more than we think they do, and they shouldn't be random. Randoming a stage is adding more luck and variance in a game that we're supposed to consider about skill. I don't know. That's just me. That's just how I feel. Hopefully, people kind of agree with me. What stage matters the most in SF6? None. 2D fighters, generally stages don't matter. There's a few cases where stages do, but it's usually only in the NRS games, right? Because in NRS games, minus, I think, Mortal Kombat 1, there's stage interactables, right? There's like things you can jump off of, there's things you can throw, there's things you can use for armor, right? Think of Injustice with like the trash can, or the old lady you could throw in MKX. And even in Mortal Kombat 9, there was no stage hazards, but stages were actually different lengths, right? I think Rooftop Day was the longest stage. So if you fought a zoner on Rooftop Day, like Kenshi, Cabal, you weren't having a good time unless you had really good anti-zoning tools or were also a zoner yourself, right? And like that made some characters get a lot better in the meta and a lot worse. right? It made a more defined meta, not just around the characters, but around the stages as well. And the shortest stages in the game, funnily enough, the shortest stages in the game, I think the pit was one of them. Also favor Cabal, because Cabal's not only one of the best zoners in the game, he's also one of the best rushdown characters in the game. But other than him, I think a lot of characters became stronger or weaker, generally, depending on the length of stage. So even in a 2D fighter, right? Like, it's not a very good example, because generally 2D fighters, shit like that doesn't matter. But NRS like took the dial to 11, and they kind of made it very similar to a platform fighter in the way that there are stage hazards that matter, or stage sizes that matter. And it made for a more dynamic, like on-the-fly playstyle, which I thought was really cool. But once again, the stages were randomized. I think you should probably have a pick and ban system for the stages, so that with your character, you also know what is coming with the stage, right? You can think of stage plus character, not just character, right? That's a super big extra layer of depth and mastery and complexity on top of what already exists in fighting games. And people say fighting games are hard or whatever, but I think that more decisions when it comes to how to interact with the game competitively is generally a good thing, right? We don't want a sterile, boring, simple competitive environment. We want it to be a brain game, right? We don't want it to be a brain-off game, generally. I mean, some of you probably want brain-off games, but brain-off games aren't generally the best competitive games. Chess is not a brain-off game. Sure, there are moves that people know, like the Queen's Gambit and things like that are mapped out, that have been, this is in defense, that have been happening for like hundreds of years, but that doesn't mean that it's not, like, that is only the shallow surface of chess. Once you learn those things, now you have to learn how they interact with one another. Which makes the game more complex than checkers, than tic-tac-toe, than rock, paper, scissors, right? And Jenga. I don't know how competitive Jenga works, man. I'm not trying to diss competitive Jenga and get fucking flamed, right? But that's generally what I mean, right? Is there's so many extra layers of complexity and extra pieces of variance you can eliminate from 3D fighters and 2D fighters that have stages that matter if you make it so that stages aren't randomized and there's a pick ban system. And maybe even we'll steal this from Smash, because I think Dave's Stupid Rule is pretty good. You can't win on the same stage twice in Smash with Dave's Stupid Rule. I think modified Dave's Stupid Rule, you can win on the same stage twice if you don't win on it 2 times back to back, right? So you can like win on Pokemon Stadium, they take you somewhere else, you lose. You take them somewhere that's not Pokemon Stadium and you win, and then like it's your pick again. Like say it's your pick again in the set. You can pick Pokemon Stadium again. Because now you've won on another stage, now you're gonna win on Pokemon Stadium again. That's Dave's Stupid Rule modified, but just original Dave's Stupid Rule is you can't win on the same set. You can't win on the same stage twice in a set. Whether it's best of 2 or best of 3. I believe the reason why we use Dave's Stupid Rule modified or modified DSR is because there's not enough stages in the Smash Ultimate stage list to literally actually use the real DSR, which I think is better. Which I think makes you have to become a more well-rounded player and be able to win on more stages other than just Battlefield and Pokemon Stadium. Because guess what? You have to win on 3 different stages. You have to win on Battlefield, Pokemon Stadium, Smashville, Pokemon Stadium, Kalos FD, Town and City, whatever, right? Like, you have to win on more than just 2 stages now. More than just 1 stage, because I swear to you, there's so many sets that I see where someone who wins the set only played and won on Pokemon Stadium. They won the first game on Pokemon Stadium, got counterpicked to FD, lost the game on FD, went back to Pokemon Stadium, won. The other guy was like, I'm running right back into it, let's go back to Pokemon Stadium. And they get fucked and they lose on Pokemon Stadium, and every game the opponent won was on Pokemon Stadium. Man, I'm so fucking tired of seeing that green terrain with the fucking Pokeball on. Show me some more stages. And show me less variance and randomness in the stages when it comes to fighting games where stages actually matter. Where stages actually matter, because stages actually matter in some of these games. Like I said, that's just me. I hope people agree. I hope there's like a subset of people who are like, you know, you're kind of spitting. Honestly hope, like, if I run local Soul Calibur tournaments again, whether it be with 6 or if 7 comes out, I'm going to set in a rule that we will have stage picks for Soul Calibur 6. We'll get a ban, or there'll be 2 bans, and then loser gets a pick. Because do you want to fight Ivy? Like, let me put this into perspective. There's a stage that's very similar to Final Destination, right? Final Destination is... Sorry, my mom just texted me. So Final Destination is like the really long single platform stage that, you know, characters that don't really need a platform to hide under and have pretty strong zoning tools and don't have upwards combo tools are going to go to, right? So let's take that and then put walls around it because it's a fighting game. You know that we don't really want ring outs, right? There's a bunch of stages with ring outs in Soul Calibur, but there's one. It's the largest stage in the game for Soul Calibur 6. It's the cathedral. It's the church. It's Ostrheinsburg Castle. I think it's what it is. It's Ostrheinsburg Castle. It's huge. It's got all walls, no ring outs, and just so much space for zoners to run. There's a character in the game with a super long whip sword that takes up, I don't know, 7 to 8 character links if you're using her longest range buttons. She can combo you from a distance, catch you from a distance moving and pull you into mix-ups and then throw you back out to full screen. If it was up to me, her name is Ivy. Go ahead and look up Ivy, Soul Calibur 6. If you're horny now, I'm sorry. But go ahead and look up Soul Calibur 6 Ivy. You'll see the whip sword. You'll see what she's got, what she's rocking with. Mainly the sword. That's all I'm talking about here. I don't ever want to fight that character on Ostrheinsburg. I should be able to ban Ostrheinsburg versus Ivy because there's other stages where she's also good on, right? Indian Port, the stage, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a small stage with no walls, all ring outs. She's also really good on that stage because she's very good at ringing people out from long distances, even reverse ring outs, right? You have to play very awkward versus her. She has other stages that she's good at, but the one I'm generally going to choose to not fight her on, because I don't have to chase her down, so that there's less room for her to run from me, I'm going to bet on Ostrheinsburg. It's that easy. And I think that makes for a more dynamic range of play. Instead of, I'm going to pick Ivy, you're going to pick your character, you're going to pick Ivy, I'm going to pick my character. We're going to hit random. Get fucked, bitch. You got exactly Ostrheinsburg. And we have like a saying in the Soul Calibur community where if you like random and you get the same stage again, and we say, well, random is random. Right? Like, you're like, oh, fuck, dude, I need to get off the stage. I'm going to go to stage select and hit random. Because we don't have stage select legally. You don't pick your stage. You pick music, but you can't pick your stage, right? Right now, currently, in the way the game is played competitively. We don't use the World Tour rules anymore. So, you go back to stage select, and you're trying to get away from, I don't know, Nightmare on Desert Stage. Desert Stage is the smallest in the game, no walls, all ring outs. He has the easiest ring outs in the game. Generally, they come off like safe buttons that you have to sidestep to get away from, or like really big launchers that it's pretty easy for him to get catching you stepping, right? So he has like nice mix for his ring out capability, right? And you don't really want to fight him on Desert Stage. Like, I don't want to deal with Nightmare on Desert. Man, he's got a big sword, but I think I have to take him to Ostrheinsburg. Like, all wall stage, really big, a lot of space, a lot of time to think, and lots of stuff to work with here. Okay, like, my character's pretty mid-rangey too, no big deal. I hit random, I get fucking Desert Stage again. Like, that doesn't feel skillful. It feels lucky. As a matter of fact, it's not good for the game. It's actually really bad and unhealthy for the game. So I think having stages that matter, knowing that stages matter, having them be chosen instead of being random, is only in favor of competitive spirit instead of away from it. That was like a giant rant out of nowhere about all stages when it comes to platform fighters, and mainly 3D and platform, but NRS also had this because of the Injustice series and Mortal Kombat 11, 9, and X. I don't really know if it matters too much in Mortal Kombat 1. I can't speak on that. So if you liked this, if you liked that, hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below if you think stages matter in traditional fighting games, and which ones, and if you'd like to see a change for Tekken, Soul Calibur, all these games.
My abyss shall take you!
Tave Raiden, thanks for the follow, appreciate that. Thanks for that. Anyways, this has been Beneath Thuggish, ranting randomly while I'm playing RuneScape about stages and fighting games, signing out and saying peace.